Vamos a comenzar.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of Vela y Voto. We thank you for joining us here for our second week of gathering and dialogue and prayer and intention. We just wanted to start off with a land acknowledgement to just name where we're at right now. So we're speaking from Las Maestras Center at UC Santa Barbara. UC Santa Barbara is located on the traditional and unceded lands and waters of the Chumash peoples. So we acknowledge all the bands, families, and tribal nations who continue to assert their self-determination here. UC Santa Barbara is a land grab university and is situated on the ancestral village of Heliuk. So we name them to give thanks to the peoples, their ancestors, and the guardians of these lands and these waters that we walk on. We also want to give thanks to the lands themselves, to the waters, and the call for all of us to pay attention and to revere and to protect the sacred wherever it is that we go. The call of the water protectors, the call of the land defenders, the calls of those who ask us to protect that what is that's sacred. So we call all of you to bring in yourselves and the places that you're calling in from and that you're watching from, and to give a moment to acknowledge, to respect, and to give thanks to those places and ancestors and peoples whom we are in relation with. And I'll pass it.
Thank you, John. And again, I'm Celia Herrera Rodriguez, and I'm the director of Las Maestras Center for Chicana, Indigenous Thought, Art, and Social Practice. I wanted to thank the Department of English and the Division of Humanities and Fine Arts and the Department of Chicano and Chicana Studies and the Division of Social Science. This center has been housed and between those two divisions. I wanted to say that just so we know that where we're sitting here in Las Maestras Center at UCSB. Voz, Vela y Voto is in response to the great changes and challenges facing me and us from the greater society, the world, and especially from the intimacy of my and our daily lives. I remind myself of this time of the season to remember our relations, our homelands, to pray for, act for, and have first and foremost in our minds the health and continuity of the homelands of the original peoples of the land, from the hills and the canyons of the Sierra Nuestra Madre to the valleys, mountains, plains, rivers, and coastlines. And I ask the east, the west, the south, and the north, and then to center ourselves at our fireplace and to give thanks for those that have walked onto the other side, and to remain committed to what we can do to protect this earth for those that are coming along. I want to thank Jandy and her family, Jandy Ton and her family up at White Mountain in Arizona. And I want to thank those that are sitting here in the room with me, our students and interns, that Axel and Alondra, and one of my favorite people here that teaches in Chicanic Studies, Professora Coco. I asked her to sit in with us and maybe say a few words tonight. The question that we're asking is, what is at stake during this election time? Because they come around and there's a lot of communication, a lot of talking. And then we're asked to forget everything that has happened in the last 4 years. But the one thing that I do remember is he who shall not be named, because it always, brings up bad feelings for that. But we know who that is. And that's what, he's just the tip of the iceberg, though. I want to remind us all of that he is nothing without what is underneath and to the side and, and pressing forward. So our job is to make sure that we know that and to act in our own interest. So what I'm asking, what's at stake? Is the utmost concern at this moment? And I wanted to hear from folks, some of the most vulnerable and some of the most active people. There are folks that have joined us that have been active for 50 years, that have always kept their commitment, to change, to movement, to the communities, to people, to human beings, to this land, to all that we share. And those that we've asked to speak in their own ways, in their own communities, continue to do that work. And so with that, I'm going to start with Jandy. Pass it over to her. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jandy Tan. I'm White Mountain Apache, and I'm here with my children. So this is my son, Rowley, and my daughter, Tani, and my other daughter, Kaya. And I'm just going to show you our altar here. I'm using Kaya's phone here. So this is our abalone shell that was passed over to us from my grandma, Nina. And then there are corn, all the different colors that we grew as a family this year, my children and I. This is corn from my grandfather from Chihuahua, Mexico. And then there's all the sunflower seeds that we grew, our pumpkin and our squash. And then over here we have our sacred pollen, which is what we pray with and what we believe is the breath of the world. This is what helps us to sustain ourselves in the world. And then we've got our water and our fruits and, all the things that are good for us. And then here we also have our Apache salt that my daughter harvested during her ceremony, her coming of age ceremony. And so we just take a moment to take some of this salt and we just take a little bit into our mouths. And I would invite you to do the same, to think of the same. The way we use the salt is we put a little bit on our tongue during ceremony or whenever it's time for us to speak, because we want to be mindful about the words that we use and the power that we have, the power of our words. So that's our altar that we set up for you all here. And I'm going to offer a prayer, and I would ask you if you can to find the east wherever you might be sitting. And we're taught in ceremony that when we pray, we lift our heads, we lift our faces up to the sky so that our ancestors and our good spirits can know us and love us. And so as we gather today, I begin with a prayer from the heart of an Apache and Chicano woman, a mother, a daughter, a sister, who carries both the burdens and hopes for our people. Bik'ew hidan shita nikostan shima istan adlasha nayanizgane tubashchine. The ancestors and good spirits who know us and love us. We take this time to orient ourselves in this prayer in our various identities and roles in this life. She jadi tan gonse, she deschiden schli. I'm the daughter of Glenda Tesse and Joel Hernandez, granddaughter of Nina Gatewood and Herbert Tesse Sr. of Cibicue, Arizona, and Catalina Garcia and Juan Hernandez of Chihuahua, Mexico. I'm the mother of Kaya Min, Tani Kasha, and Rowley Nephi. We belong to the Deschiden clan of the White Mountain Apache tribe. We are grateful for this life we're living at this blessed point in time. When we think about the creation of this world within this vast universe we realize how lucky we are to be with one another with a powerful awareness of our own spirits and our own existence at this special time. And we ask Creator, our dearest friend, to watch over us as we journey forward, guiding our hands and our feet in the work we do for our families and for our children and our land. For every mother, for every child, for every elder who is no longer here to guide us, may we stand in their honor. May we remember that the path forward is not always easy, but it's always necessary. And Creator, our dearest friend, give us the strength to persevere through challenges, to lift our communities and to fight for our rights and the power of our people that we have carried within ourselves through the generations. Our spirits were not dominated if we are still here. Let the decisions we make today, as we give power to our voices through voting and beyond, reflect the care we have for future generations, for our Mother Earth, and the well-being of our Native people. May we walk this path with beauty, dignity, wisdom, and hope for a better tomorrow. To all my relations, ahea gojoroleh. Thank you. And that's the prayer that we offer as a family together. Thank you very much, my children. You did a good job. Because it sounded beautiful when you said it.
Yeah, it sounded cute.
Yeah. So thank you very much for allowing me to offer this prayer and with my children. I also want to let my daughter introduce herself. We work together and she carries, like they say, she carries good medicine for our family because she had her ceremony and she brought a lot of blessings to us, through the course of colonization. I didn't have that opportunity to have that ceremony when it was my time. And, that was one of the greatest achievements that I could ever have in my life was to be able to offer that ceremony to my daughters. And so I'm gonna let her introduce herself and share a little bit about her medicine.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Kaya, and this is my, let me see it. This is my friend who has been with me since my ceremony. Yeah. Every time it rains, I take it outside to thank the earth for giving us the rain.
It's because it will give the whole earth some leaves, and when you are gonna go and have a sunrise dance, there's a place for you to go because it makes the mud, and then the mud turns into dirt.
Yep. What else you want me to say about it?
Whenever we need a prayer in our family,
We always are all together. We get together and we set up stuff so we could be great, so we could have a prayer and all be safe.
yeah, our prayers are a family effort, so we do have Kaya take her cane outside for us whenever there's a hardship or, especially in times like this when there's a drought or, when we have such important things that are happening in our world that's affecting all of us. We ask her to take her cane outside and she prays for us. So she brought, I asked her to bring it here tonight for our gathering, just to bring that special spirit. Like she said, this is her friend. That's one of her best friends there. And I think it's a good reminder that, the people or what we need to rely on is our friends, the spirits and the ancestors that really love us and look after us. This is who we we call upon during these times. So I'm sorry, I kind of went off track. Are we also introducing ourselves and what we do, or?
Seguro, yes, I would love to know what you do.
Okay, so,
Do you want me to do it? Or do
well,
you want to do
Yeah,
it?
yeah, go for it.
yeah,
What? Okay, so we work with Arizona Native Vote. It's a nonprofit, nonpartisan group. I have a team on our White Mountain Reservation. We go out to the community. We've been registering people, going door to door, making sure they're registered, their status is active. We've been finding out that a lot of people, even people who just recently voted in the past election, for some reason their statuses became inactive, so they had to re-register. Same thing with a lot of like new voters. We've been finding out that their registrations weren't verified when they were turned in. So we've been doing a lot of work making sure everyone's registered for this election.
so that's like we're seeing it in real time, right there in the field, how they're actively working to disenfranchise our communities, and even people that were longtime voters, they just voted in the last election and then suddenly they're no longer active for this election. And, and then my daughter also recently came across this issue of, all of the young people that recently registered for the first time are, they haven't been validated yet, and it's been weeks and they're waiting, they have their voice, they want it to be heard, and yet nobody has any answers for them. I also wanted to introduce one of our team members who's also on the call. His name is Landis. He works out in the field with Kaya, and he's also a young Apache. So Landis, if you can, if you don't mind saying hello and talk a little bit about yourself and what you do. I'm putting him on the spot, I think.
Okay. Hi, my name's Landis. I'm 20 years old, I guess. I go to school at the Tohono O'odham Community College out in Cells. It's like 40 minutes away from Tucson and 2 hours away from the border, I believe, from Mexico. I ran cross country out there for about a year, and I go to school for social work. So, like, I think this registering people and being out there, civil engagement is really good for the social work area for me, I guess. And yeah, I grew up on the reservation, I live on the reservation still. Um, Seeing everything, and yeah, that's it, I guess.
I think the tremendous thing about these two is that they're often the youngest organizers in the room whenever we get together and organize. And I think this year they really learned how valuable their voices are, because every time, there'll be all of these great leaders in the room and they're talking about the issues, and then they turn to these two young people and say, we need to hear your voice. We want to know what you think. Tell us what the youth think. And so I think for me, just witnessing, what they've been going through this year, and being able to say, like they're sitting with grandmas in their homes, and they're meeting, aunties and uncles in the streets, and their own peers, and helping them to get registered, and even, really talking to their peers about why it's important not to be apathetic. We've encountered that a lot in the field, young people saying it's just pointless, my vote doesn't count. or I don't like the system, I don't like the candidates, and so it's been really amazing to see these two young people, having those really hard conversations with some of our most important voters, the young people, because it's their future that we're, it's their lives that we're working towards right now. That's what's at stake. And, it's been a really interesting conversation about why voting is self-care, why voting is honoring our ancestors, why voting is honoring our well-being and our voices and our needs, our basic needs. So so I help them also, I help organize their program and get funding for all of their wonderful ideas and the ways that they engage people out in the community. They bring a lot of joy and fun to the community while they're out, with music and food and, games and that's how they're engaging people this year. So it's more than just knocking on doors,
I understand that you and Kaya were at the UN this year at the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. Kaya, was this your first time out there?
Yes. First time at the United Nations.
Landis came with us also, by the way.
We went. I spoke about self-determination, our land rights. Well, I can't remember what the other one was called.
Our right to ceremony.
Right to
Land and
ceremony,
ceremony.
right to land. So it was such a great and powerful experience, and being able to share my voice with the leaders out there. We met a lot of people, and made a lot of great connections. So
Yeah, they did a great job.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. What did you come back with? What was the takeaway from that experience?
Oh man, there's a lot that happens behind those doors, I would say. The takeaway, being able to recognize that my voice matters, that they listened. I had the time of their attention, I should say, to highlight the importance of what's happening on my reservation. Letting my voice be heard was very important to me and important to my people and my land here. But yeah.
Can I also add to that? Both Kaya and Landis came home with this really inspired sense of what can we do next, and how can we learn more, and how can we do more, and how can we engage more youth and make sure that they're educated about, these kind of opportunities where they can have their voices heard, because they're talking about real everyday issues. Kaya did talk, she spoke about a death that we had in our family recently and how that impacted us, and that death was directly tied to colonization and historical trauma. And so anyways, of course, very proud mother, and and so I'm just saying I'm really proud of Kaya and Landis, and the interest that they've taken, at such a young age and with such limited resources.
Well, I'm not surprised. I was at your ceremony and witnessed your determination and strength, and and the good energy that you had. I guess what I wanted to ask you, Kaya, because we have an opportunity to talk, with you from your experience as a young person, and so I ask you, what do you think? What are your peers, your friends, your family, young people, what are they concerned about right now?
I wouldn't say concerned. I would say there's a lot of people who are still uneducated, not uneducated, but they don't have all the information. So especially with voting, you know, they go with the most popular choice. And when we sit down and really look at what will be affecting our tribe and our people, I would say, you know, all the information that they're trying to hide is coming out. This, I would say, like a lot of people are figuring out what's really going on. What are the intentions of these people who want to get into the office? So yeah, I would say there's a lot of misinformation that's being spread and be like correcting that. I wouldn't say my peers, but I would say my community. They were like first time felons or like that. This happened like long time ago. They thought that they couldn't vote even now, but going back and looking at it, they just had to restore their rights. So it's a much simpler process once we really start thinking about it and looking at everything, I guess. Anything?
Can
I
you
don't know.
can you tell them about, you know, yesterday we had a really like emotional moment when you were learning about women's, how it affects you as a woman,
Wait, learning about what?
the propositions.
Oh yeah, so a lot of the propositions, there's a lot of misinformation being spread by another side, I should say. And I don't really know how to describe it. I don't know. It was emotional.
And why was it emotional?
It was a little invasive. We were at one of the early voting locations and they were forcing people who just voted to get false information and talk with, I don't know if I can say the word.
You can say it.
Talk with Republicans. Being forced to talk to them, literally leaving the parking lot. So it did feel a little invasive and a little uneasy. I don't know.
What about the issue about women's bodies and victims?
Yeah, so there is a proposition where they want to, can I actually talk about it?
Yeah, you
I can
can.
talk about it, like
Yeah.
my perspective.
From
Okay.
Kaya's perspective.
They want to punish rape victims, not just what do you call them?
The perpetrator.
The perpetrators. They want to also punish the victims and put them in jail, which absolutely broke my heart. They were spreading false information that wouldn't happen. The Republicans were saying that, I should say. But yeah, it was very tough hearing that and having to, I don't know, it was hard having to tell other people like this may happen. You know, that's a very big issue on our reservation. So I don't know. It's an emotional topic.
Part of the reason why it's also tough is because, you know, Kaya represents, when she's in her working capacity, she represents a nonpartisan nonprofit organization.
Yes, I wasn't
So
sure of what
it's a real challenge, but like tonight we are representing ourselves as a
Okay.
family. So, you know, I think it's okay for Kaya and Landis to express, you know, their personal opinions and their personal experiences, because it's really valuable for us to hear. You know, like I didn't know this about what people were saying about that proposition. And, you know, and when Kaya explained it to me, she was crying, you know, because it's just, it's, you know, I always say it's the patriarchy, you know, it's a horrible system. And anyways, I just wanted to kind of put that in.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Well, Jandy, as I said earlier, you know, I've known you I think I've met you when you just came back. I think you had finished school.
Yeah, Kaya was 4 years old.
Yeah, I still have pictures. And so you've stayed and done amazing work in that community. So I'm so grateful to be able to talk with you. So again, I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you think, the what's at stake right now for in the community? Like what, in this time, like what's important to the communities, if you can say that, or to you in terms of your family, what's at stake, during this time?
Our land is at stake. He took away a reservation. What was it? 2020?
Yeah.
He took away a reservation, took away their, what else was it?
Took away, sacred lands, the Bears' Ears. Yeah, that's exactly what I would say too, is, our land is at stake.
Our land, our education, our women's rights is at stake. Literally the education system, they would completely dissolve that.
And what that means for Indigenous people, when we look at Project 2020 and they're talking about Project 2025, when they talk about opening up federal land, we already know what Trump's relationship is like with tribal nations. As she mentioned, he did disestablish a reservation in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, when the tribe could not do anything because the courts were closed, and that is still in the courts. That case is still in the courts. The tribe was able to get their land back, but it took a lot of money and it took a big fight, to get it back. A lot of smart people, who know the laws and were able to help defend that. We look at Bears' Ears, and the Navajo Nation, those sacred sites, Oak Flats. And the reason why those sacred sites are so important to us is because, just like you witnessed during Kaya's dance, her ceremony as an Apache, as she became an Apache woman, aligns her directly with Mother Earth. And during her ceremony, she learns that her body is able to sustain life just as Mother Earth does for us. So it really helps her to understand that really, special relationship that we have as Indigenous people with Mother Earth. And so, when they say when they say they're going to open up federal land, well, we know they're talking about tribal lands. And when they say they're going to violate Mother Earth, we also know that means they're ready to violate our own bodies. There's a really strong connection between those two. And we also, sorry?
Not to mention LGBTQ rights, not to mention businesses, and what else?
Well, she also mentioned education, the education system. That's what we rely on as tribal people to help tell the true history of our people. We need our children to know the true history, and sometimes the schools help, sometimes they don't. It really takes us as adults and parents to have those conversations with our children about those things. Recently had some therapists, I was doing a training on historical trauma and, the present day impacts. And they were asking me, so how young can we start talking to kids about decolonization and historical trauma? And, I said, well, I've been talking to my children about it since they were little babies. They understand so much more than we realize. We underestimate our children. Even when they are not able to speak, they can still understand, and this might not seem related, but there was a study where there was a little baby who couldn't speak yet and was watching these puppets. It was a puppet show, and there was a little puppet that was climbing up the hill, and then there was a puppet that was helping it, and then a puppet that was pushing it down. And so they played this little show and they offered those puppets to the children, and every single time those children chose the puppet that was helping. So even though they're not able to speak, and you think that they're not going to remember what they're experiencing as babies, they know, deep down in their hearts and their bodies, they know who they can trust and what's right and what's wrong. And so, you know, I do talk to my children ever since they were little about capitalism and the patriarchy and racism and what is white supremacy, you know. They need to know those things because we do a disservice to our children when we don't teach them those things. We can't protect them from those things. The only way we can protect them is to make sure that they are aware of those things and they're ready, you know, to continue that that fight against it in order to preserve our cultures and our languages. But anyways, I might have gone on a tangent there, but you know, just coming back to what we see in these policies that are coming from the right side or from the red side, you know, we stand to lose our language, you know, funding for language classes, and also our college students, you know, they could stand to lose their Pell Grants, their scholarships, all the way down to our children who went to Head Start. You know, Kaya went to Head Start, and it was such an important part of her life, you know, even that very important program. And the reason why Head Start is so important is because that's where all the building blocks are, you know, established for all of us as human beings. We learn those things in our early childhood. And a lot of just because we don't have a lot of resources, you know, we have children that are already behind schedule when they get to Head Start or when they get to kindergarten. You know, so so there are those things. Of course, you know, it's horrendous what's happening with women's rights and our right to health care. You know, and as Indigenous people, we have such a tumultuous relationship with healthcare. You know, it's not something that was given to us as a handout. It was supposed to be an exchange for land. And that is the payment that they owe us as Indigenous people, is healthcare. And yet they have abused us so much in that system, you know, from this, and it's bizarre how they could go from, you know, the 1970s where they are sterilizing women to now all of a sudden, you know, saying that a woman has no right, you know, like, again, a woman has no right to her body, but also criminalizing her for just receiving healthcare that, you know, is important to her. And I know that you all know these things, but you know, these are things that have been on my heart because I just cannot, you know, everything that I've ever done in my whole life, all of my jobs, all of the learning, you know, the past 15 years that I've spent working on my reservation, I always say it's for my people, but really it's for my children. And I think about the world that I want them to live in, and to think that, you know, they could possibly have less rights than I did. You know, it's not the time for us to sit back and say, well, I don't agree with the system. You know, it's fine. We can say that. We can say we don't agree with the system, but that doesn't mean that it's time for us to sit it out. You know, the system will never be perfect. And the other thing is our ancestors really fought for the opportunity for us to have a seat at this table at this time. And we can't turn away from that. You know, everything that our ancestors went through, everything that they gave up, they sacrificed, you know, their land, the language, the culture, but they fought for that right. And we need to honor them for that, you know.
And we need to care for them.
Yes.
Because if we don't care about them, sometimes they will get sad and
Can you come over here and say that? Okay.
Yeah.
My daughter has something to say here.
We have to care about our ancestors, and we have to make sure, because if we don't like them and we don't care about them,
How will they feel?
they will feel sad, and they will try and doing something nice to you, and you might like them, but sometimes it's okay to say that you want to be alone by your ancestors.
Thank you, sweetheart. Yeah, honor our ancestors. They're with us, you know, they're with us, they're helping us. And gosh, you know, there's just so much. So yeah, so I would say, you know, the major points there is land, education, and our rights, you know, our human rights, not just as women, you know, but as Indigenous people. And I don't know if there's anything I've left out. I'm sure I've left out a lot. You know, something that you also asked earlier, Celia, you were asking about, you know, what is it that we need to think about? What do we need to, you know, one of the things that came to me, you know, as I was praying one night was that we have to think about where these oppressive systems are coming from. And we need to think about it with, you know, in this reality that we live in. And to me, you know, what came to me was that there are these rooms where these, you know, these people who are in power are really having these actual conversations about how they can exploit us and how they can make, you know, more money off of us as human beings. You know, they want to take us back. They want to take us backwards. And they're having those real conversations about slavery. You know, they are having those real conversations about how we can erase the true history. And they're actively working on that. That's where all of these oppressive systems are coming from. And they are not ashamed of it. You know, they celebrate one another. These people that have, you know, they say that billionaires don't become billionaires without exploiting people. You know, they're not nice. They're not nice.
Yeah, they're not
They
nice.
don't have our best interests in mind, you know, and there are and it's, you know, for me, it's also really tough to see my own people you know, receiving this misinformation and it breaks my heart that they're not able to see that it's not true, you know, that it's meant to scare them. And they start to identify with the oppressor. And you know, that's the part that breaks my heart the most, is seeing our people turn against ourselves, you know. And I'm not talking about us, one another, although that does happen, but they're turning against their own hearts and their own, you know, their own ancestors, their own identity. And, you know, and that, so that's why I'm saying, you know, we need to name these issues that are happening when they are raising the prices out there and making it very difficult for us to survive. You know, it's because of white supremacy. It's because of the patriarchy. It's because of racism, because of capitalism, you know, and every opportunity I get to name those things. I'm sure my children are tired of hearing about it, but I always say it, you know, that's because of the patriarchy. That's because of capitalism. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. She said she's not tired of hearing about it. But you know, I just wanted to share that. I had that feeling one night, you know, just that really scary feeling that there are these people out there who are having those really terrible conversations about how to dominate and how to take our children away from us and how to take our history and our language and our cultures away and, you know, strip us away so that we can become slaves for them, you know, and the empires that they're trying to build. And, you know, when you think about history, you know, and there have been so many civilizations that we just don't know anything about. You know, we have these really beautiful pueblos over here, some ruins that, you know, my family, they call it where the people from far away came from there, you know, and we don't know who those people are. And it's like, you know, I always struggle to understand why don't we know who those people are? You know, but it's because of colonization. You know, that was a very strategic, um, you know, plan that they had to get rid of us and to take our land and our culture and our identities away from us. And it's happening right now. You know, I'm watching people losing their identity in real time because they're frightened and they think that is their way to survive. And it may be the way to stay alive, but it's not a way to live, you know. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you for that, Jandy. As you were speaking, I was reminded of, you know, all the ways in which that, you know, from 2020, you know, from watching the children being snatched away, it just brought back so many things, you know, so many feelings of loss, you know, in my own life and in my family, you know, realizing why we're so, you know, how we ended up so separated, you know, from our people, from our, you know, from our land, from our relatives, you know, near and far. You know, it was brutal to watch, you know, and even more brutal to not even know what to do. Like, how do we respond? What do we do? So, you know, it's not like it was in the past, it's happening right now. We're experiencing it already. And so that's what concerns me, you know, that Trump is not just you know, a bunch of air. There's, you know, there's some real, you know, bad, you know, medicine underneath that. I always say, who's playing the Trump card? You know, and if you follow back to see, you know, who put him there, who supports it, and to see the infection of it all, you know, hit all of us in our communities where we're being, you know, the mean spirit that's alive right now, you know, that we attack each other, that we're questioning each other, who we are, what right we have. You know, we can't see ourselves as relations, you know, and it's so easy, you know, to kind of bring all our frustration onto each other, you know, within our communities. And so that's become the struggles and the things that come out of our mouth, you know, toward one another. Uh, not that there's not wrongdoing amongst us, you know, but I feel like somehow we've lost, you know, ourselves. And I ask, how did we survive the last 500 years? I mean, I think we survived by making community. I think that from everything I see, people, if they lost their community, joined other communities, you know, became relatives to each other, supported one another. Maybe that's a pretty picture I've painted for myself, but we've survived. Here we are. And it was a terrific, terrible, terrible time. And now this time, I'm not sure if it's any less violent, you know, because of how it's coming at us through television, through the telephone, coming at us, you know, all the time and occupying our children's minds, our minds, you know, it's like it doesn't end. So I appreciate how you speak about prayer, you know, and where your thoughts come, you know, your heart and your prayer and how that helps focus. I admire you so much, you know, I can see your energy and the focus that you've had in your family. You know, it's kind of like that generative energy. I'm so grateful to you for it, you know, because we have conscious members, you know, amongst us because of that. So I'm just you know, when I keep struggling these days, you know, to find new words, to find words that matter, you know, that can move, motivate. It's almost embarrassing to tell people to vote, you know. It makes me feel like, what? But I don't know any other way. You know, here we are in this place, and that's the only way that we have, you know, to hold someone accountable. At this moment, anyway. I mean, that's all I see. I invited lots of people to come and speak, even those people who didn't believe in voting, but I think they looked at me a little bit like, what? So hopefully as they listen to all these words, maybe they'll get inspired and want to come on and talk about what matters to them, you know, what they're experiencing. I think for, you know, for myself, I feel like you, I'm a great grandmother. You know, I see the children, some of whom, you know, I haven't seen in a long time. And I know that they're all in some way or another, vulnerable, to the decisions that this country makes about healthcare and education. It's a struggle to keep them okay, It's a constant battle, to make sure that they're going to be okay, that they can, they just can't walk out their house and go to school anymore. You have to be so careful in this society. So we've had a lot of losses in our family, to a lot of the social reasons, and looking at the impact of the environment on our health. It's been a lot in these last 4 years. But I guess I feel, in listening to your words, seeing your family and your little ones, it's medicine. Really, it's medicine to my heart, spirit, and mind. So I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add, either one of you.
And sorry.
No, it's okay, you can go.
I just wanted to say, when you were saying, it feels kind of embarrassing asking people to vote. That's exactly how they want us to feel, yes, it's okay. It's okay to feel embarrassed. That means having grace with ourselves, right?
Yes, and don't fear what you're gonna say. Just say it right away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'll be okay when you say it.
Yeah. I really do think that, they want you to feel embarrassed. They want you to feel disempowered. They want you to feel like it's not going to matter. They want it to feel ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. When we got our voter guide, it was like a phone book. It was ridiculous. How are we going to learn all of this in time to make decisions? But thankfully we do have some people who that was their full-time job, and they help to process all the information so we can understand it. But that's what they wanted. That's how they want it to be. They want it to be difficult. They want it to be, just confusing. They want us to give up. They don't want us to have a voice because they want to make all the decisions for us. They want to make all the decisions for our land, for our culture, for our language, for ourselves. I feel like that's just part of the design, to disenfranchise. And so, that's why I'm like, this is not, I can understand that feeling. It's that hopelessness that so many of us have felt over all the generations, and but what's really important is to have that awareness. And I always say, okay, let's have awareness right now. What is it that we're feeling? Name those feelings. Say what it is. Yeah.
You can talk about it with somebody that you're sitting with.
When you
can hug them and start talking about it somewhere where nobody can hear it. You just want it to be private.
Yes, exactly. When you name your feelings, then you're able to talk about it, is what she just said. I don't know if you could hear her, but
I heard that, yes.
That's our practice, and I'm not a perfect mother, I make mistakes. I sometimes fall back to my old habits, and I wasn't raised with gentle parents, but that's the only way I know how to change the world is, something that I've said before. I may not be able to change people's minds, I may not be able to get people to vote sometimes, I may not be able to get them to realize how much power they're giving away. But what I can do is build that awareness, at least among my children, and if I can inform these 3 beautiful people that I live with, these children that I have, then
that you live with,
I love them. And, if I can change their experience and their ability to cope and their awareness of their power, then that also changes it for their children. And so I think that's really the key is we really, I know people have said it a million times, but I just want to reiterate that, the children, that's where our focus really needs to be. We need them to know our true history, and we need them to understand these complicated or what we think are complicated issues so that they can pick it up and so they can be ready for that fight.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I know you were going to say something. Did you want to?
I kind of forgot. I was like, what was I gonna say? I can't remember, honestly. It's okay. Oh, I was gonna say, not to mention they're making it harder for all the voters. Right when we started registering people is when they came out with people had to have what was it? A proof of residency. They had to show that they showed that they lived in a house aside from their post office, their mailing address. It was nuts, but like I said, they're making it more harder to get registered, trying to make it difficult so that they kind of give up right away. I mean, I wanted to give up right away when I saw that they needed that, but it's not hard because I've been doing it for so long.
She figured it out.
Yeah.
Well, we're grateful for that. Yeah. Every single person that shows up, you know, because you touch them, we're grateful for that. Yeah. Yeah. John, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I'm just so moved by the work that you all are doing. It's really powerful. And I think when we were planning this session, Jandy, you were telling us like, you know, we reminded us that every single person has their part and their piece that they play. You know, so it is very easy to become discouraged. It's very easy to become unmotivated. And also, you know, we can be both critical and also strategic about what we do, right? We know the system works in this way because it was built that way to oppress people, to oppress us, to sustain these systems of power. And also we can use voting as one strategy, but we know that's not the only thing. But everything we do in our communities and our families, like you were saying, you know, raising these wise young people who are giving us wisdom, me, and I'm just like, oh my God, I needed to hear what that little one had to say. And I'm here like crying because I'm like feeling all defeated. And I'm like, she's like, you know, you can do it. And I'm like, yeah, we can. But like every single one of us has a piece in this, right? Even if we didn't, you know, I know you all are doing civic engagement work, you know, and going door to door, like it's hard work. It really is hard to get people to register, to talk to people about certain propositions. People shut their door on you. People badmouth you. Like I've been there, you know, and I love it and I hate it at the same time because it could crush your spirit. And at the same time, out of all the people that you talk to, if you get at least one person to have a good conversation, like that is when, you know, it reminds you like, okay, it is that one person that I had that conversation with that we were able to make that connection so that we can do this work. And that's really what it is. And having this conversation with you all like reminds me of that too, because it is hard and it feels lonely, you know, to have, you know, our critical eye, to have our consciousness to be working towards, you know, decolonization, right? Like, you know, it's never too early to have that conversation. And also it's hard to be working towards that because every single thing is telling you that that is not important to assimilate, to, you know, whatever, do the thing that is, it's not that it's easy, it's harmful to us, it hurts us. But to believe that relationship and connection is not the way, right? And how soul crushing that is too, to just like surrender that. And I think the reminder of the ancestors that, you know, you all are saying, like, you know, all our ancestors that have fought, all our ancestors that have struggled, all our ancestors and their beauty and the wisdom and the hurt that they've gone through, but also the power that they have, you know, those are the things that we need to remind ourselves and of those practices, why we're holding these fires, why we have our altars with us, you know, that is what sustains us, that is what holds us, that is, we need to go back to those things because that is the foundation of our work, right? Not other things like bad medicine that you were saying and those bad words and judgment and control and greed and dominance, like those are recipes and the underlying tones of this other way. But if we keep to those ways and allow that to move us, I believe that we have to trust that that's what's going to allow us to create those ripples of creating that world that already exists, right? But just kind of allowing it to bloom. And that's what you all are doing. It's so moving. And I thank you all
Thank
for
you.
being medicine.
Thank you.
I know that I was talking to my Theo, who's 94. I'm not sure if he's going to vote this year, but we were having a conversation, and I was telling him, that all the benefits that he has, all the things that he takes, that, his health care, his Social Security, his, retirement, everything, the union, everything that supported him. I was saying to him that somebody fought for it. There were people before him that fought for it, that wrote those bills, that did the demonstrations, that put their bodies, that occupied the White House lawn, all the struggles of the 40s and, 50s, for him to be able to enjoy, a retirement that has benefits. And so I said, so now it's your turn, right? Now it's your turn to think about, not to look at everybody as, trying to take something from you, but to look at it as, your turn to put in that work so that in the future, your great grandchildren, can also have these benefits, within this generation, So I see that in some ways, one of our friends, Melanie Cervantes, an artist, did a little piece called what kind of ancestor do you want to be? And it really, it puts it right back at you, right? And like you really have to think about that and then act on it. So I see the ancestors right there in front of me. Maybe returned.
I agree.
Because they're so wise.
I definitely see them in my children,
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah.
We do call her grandma. We do call her Connie. We call her grandma. She's got
Grandma walk.
she's got that spirit, that medicine.
Spirit.
Well, anything you'd like to?
I just want to thank you for providing this really great medicine, intergenerational medicine, right? All the voices, female energy also, and the perspective and your wisdom. And it really does it materializes, what could be heard as a very superficial argument. Like there's a lot at stake, we say there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake in this. It's a very consequential election. It's a very existential election. But you named its language, its land, its reproductive health, it's our children's education, it's our schools, it's our the parent or retirement, little fruits of their labor. It's really fruits of their labor, I know we're used to saying benefits in the context of English, but it really they are social conquest. Those things were gained through struggle, through organizing, through engagement, through demands, through the crafting and drafting of those bills, and through people were beat, they were beaten, they were brutalized, they were, they went to jail, and so to crystallize that very simple argument, there's a lot at stake here. Well, this is what's at stake, right? You are the embodiment of that, and I am really thankful for that. I am really grateful for that.
Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My husband. Yes, you just trying to grab it with your feet.
If there's anybody on.
Do you want to open it up
To
to questions or comments, or
Or
no?
is there
Or are we done?
I don't know if there's anybody, I'm not sure how.
I do see on YouTube that Mi Tierra Healing Art says, thank you so much, Jandy, to your children, to you and your children for your medicine.
Oh,
Hi, Patricia. I know her. Thank you.
Bueno. Yeah. So I think we're really, I'm gonna go to sleep and have good dreams tonight. I feel the medicine of your words, of your palabras. So I want to thank you and I want to thank everybody who joined us and helped put this together. And I look forward to this on the YouTube, and perhaps, we'll pass on these good feelings out there into the communities. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ahea, Gojoroles.
I think that's
Okay.
it. Gracias.
Ended the stream.
Thank you.